Children lie to us less when they feel safe, when they feel safer to tell the truth. It's not your job to control your child's feelings. Their emotions are their emotions. They're not our emotions. So I was recently coaching a mom inside of my private membership, and she shared with me an incident where her child had lied. There had been an incident at school, misbehavior that she found out about through her child's teacher. She went to go approach her child about it, and her child told a half-truth. She wasn't quite telling the whole complete truth. Now this mom came to me not only concerned about the behavior at school, but now that she was lying, she was trying to cover up what happened. And so this sparked such a wonderful, deeper conversation about her overall relationship with her child and how she handles mistakes and misbehavior at home. And I'm going to circle back to that later in the episode. But what I want to share overall in this episode are some hard truths, some hard parenting truths that will help you streamline your thinking. Might cause you to rethink, what you've learned or how you've been approaching parenting. The goal is to bring you closer to what matters most, which is your overall relationship with your child. No parenting script, no parenting tool can replace the relationship that we have with our child, right? That is the core central thing that is so important to our parenting, is preserving the relationship that we have with our children. So that's what this episode is all about. Now, before we dive in, I just want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Dr. Jasmine. I'm a mom of 3 and a psychologist. And my channel really focuses on helping us parents understand and connect with our child in deeper ways so that we can show up to parenting the way that we want to, right? The ways that are aligned with our values, and so that we feel less guilty and ashamed and overwhelmed in our parenting. So I'm glad that you're here. Let's go ahead and dive into the truths. Now, hard truth number 1 is that our children will lie to us less when we make it safer for them to tell the truth. I'm gonna say that again because I think it's good. Children lie to us less when they feel safe, when they feel safer to tell the truth. What I think is often easy for us to forget as parents is that we are constantly sending our child signals, teaching our child things through how we react, how we respond, especially in the heat of the moment, right? Especially when our child makes a mistake or they're in conflict or there's some kind of mishap happening, right? Our child is learning from us how we respond. And often, if we're being honest, when there is overwhelm in our day-to-day life, it's easy to react in anger and to shame our child and, oh, why are you making a mess? Oh, why are you, fighting with your sibling yet again for the 10th millionth time this morning? Like, stop, knock it off, right? And it's totally relatable, right? We all get to that point as parents. But especially when we find our child is lying to us, not telling the truth, it's a signal that there's something off with our parenting approach, right? That our child feels unsafe in some way. So as humans, and especially for our kids, because they are so dependent on us, we are going to work so hard to be liked by others, to be accepted, right? It's an incredibly scary place for kids to feel like their caregivers who they depend on for food, shelter, nurturance, right? All these things. It's so scary for them to feel like we are upset at them, that they're going to get in trouble, right? That they're going to get punished. And so kids lie to us when they fear us, when they're afraid of punishment, when they're afraid of letting us down, when they're afraid that we are going to reject them. If your child is lying to you, I just want you to see this as a sign that somehow they've learned along the way it's not safe to tell the truth. So some quick tips to kind of mitigate this, prevent lying, or if you're in the same boat as this mom that I shared at the beginning of the episode and you've caught your child kind of in a lie, focus on creating safety, trying to see what caused them to lie. Like, what are they afraid of? And really label that, identify that, and speak to that in the way that you approach them. Also, when you do find that they are taking accountability for their actions, yes, I did that. Oh, I'll clean that up. Yes, that was me. You know, those kind of small moments that happen, you know, throughout the day. Notice it, point it out. Thank you so much for taking accountability. You know, I really appreciate you stepping up and letting me know. And, you know, in that acknowledgement, you're making it safe for them to not only make mistakes, but then, of course, be accountable for their mistakes. Also, another quick tip is when you're watching children's media like TV shows, movies, even books, be mindful of when characters are not telling the truth, because it happens more often than we think, right? Where they kind of conceal their feelings, or they even conceal what happened and they don't tell the truth to somebody else. Point those moments out. Those are beautiful moments to point out, and you can start by asking, is that a lie or was that the truth? Why do you think that character didn't tell the truth? Was she afraid of something? I wonder how might that impact her relationship, you know? And what you want to teach kids in a non-judgmental way is that whenever they lie, the natural consequence, if you will, in air quotes, or, you know, the result that can happen is that that person who is lied to will come to mistrust that person, right? There will be a weakening in the relationship, and that is the natural consequence to lying, to not being truthful. And you don't want to say this in like a shaming way, just like a matter of fact, like that's what happens when, you know, somebody doesn't tell us the truth. We're not going to be so quick to trust them again. And that's the ramifications. And so we want to kind of think about that and think about how we're treating people, especially those that we care about, but, you know, anybody. Again, going back to what is fueling the behavior, right? What are they afraid of? That's often what it comes down to, is fear. What is your child afraid of? Are they afraid of not being liked? Are they afraid of being judged? Are they afraid of being punished and getting in trouble? What are they afraid of? And that's what you want to speak to and kind of teach and guide your child around those things. And also, again, like I said, take mental notes. So truth number 2 is that replacing screens with one-on-one playtime with your child will solve 80% of your parenting problems. Now, this is not a true science. This is not based in a statistic or anything, but the essence of this truth is that most of the time when you see a lot of misbehavior, defiance, tantrums, sibling conflict, and toy battles and whining and, you know, all of these big feelings coming up to the surface, 9 times out of 10, that is an indication that your child needs more connection, more attention from you. And this is one of the biggest tips that I offer inside of my membership. When parents come to me, you know, with issues with aggression, not listening, tantrums, again, any kind of misbehavior, just big feelings, I'm often recommending that they drop the screens from their routine so that they have more time to pick up one-on-one playtime with your child. Because what this allows you to do is slow down, reconnect, and teach skills. You know, teach skills through play. And I'm happy to make another episode on how do we maximize playtime, because play is such a wonderful way. It's the best way to teach our child things. And of course, to reconnect, fill up their love tank so that they are more likely to listen to us later in the day or the next day. This also allows such wonderful opportunities for your child to express their feelings either through play or through a conversation with you, right? Like whenever we're taking time to slow down and just talk with our kids, which I know it sounds so like, yeah, duh, I talk to my kids all day, but there's these special moments that happen when it's just us and our child, right? One-on-one. We're not busy doing other things. We're not busy with other kids. We just have one-on-one time with our little one to talk about what's going on, to process things. This is often the time they're going to come and share with you what's really on their mind. So you don't want to take that for granted. And again, just remember, if there's something going on, lots of misbehavior, drop screens and pick up play. Okay, so truth number 3 is that as a society, we are too hyper-focused on getting our child to be independent. And what we need to realize is that whenever we are forcing our child to be more independent, we are actually causing them to cling on to us more, right? We're actually causing more dependence on us because they feel anxious. They're not truly prepared in the first place. The truth is that we can't help our child become more independent by refusing to meet their need for dependence. Meaning, if our child has needs, right, and they're not truly ready to be 100% on their own, we can't force this process to happen. So yes, push our child outside of their comfort zone. Yes, challenge them to try new things and learn new things. But if they are struggling in that moment, right, if they are giving you a sign that something about it is not comfortable to them and they're resisting, right, either through tantrums or they're just not listening, they're refusing to cooperate, see this as a sign that our expectation is misaligned with where they are at in that moment. Even if they've been able to do it the day before, right? Try to treat every day as a new day, right? That if our child is struggling in that moment, it's because they need something from us. And it's often that they need our help and they need our guidance. I was recently coaching a mom inside of my membership. Well, actually, this was a while ago, but she shared with me how frustrating it was around bath time. And as we got into the actual routine and I figured out, what she's a part of and what her child is expected to do, part of the coaching was around the fact that he needs more help. He needs more help getting dressed. And I know he's 5 or, however old he was. And, these things are frustrating and we wish that our child was more independent. We have other kids, we have other things to do. But if our child is resisting that, it's really important to pay attention and adjust. And what happened with his mom is that she got flack from her family. Like, oh, why is he not doing that by now? He should be doing that by himself. And so she felt all this pressure to get him to be independent and do these things by himself, but it wasn't working. And she's like, oh my gosh, it's so stressful. And so it's just a reminder that we can't force our child to be independent before they are ready. It's going to cause them to be more clingy, to be more resistant to becoming independent when they have that anxiety around it. The last thing you want to do is force your child to be more independent when they are already struggling. So truth number 4 is that it's not your job to control your child's feelings and get them to calm down. This is really their process to control. Try to be as nurturing and comforting as you can when your child is having a hard time, but the goal in nurturing, the goal in comforting can't be to stop them from crying. And I know that that's hard in the moment, right? It's hard because as parents, we want to comfort our child, right? That is our instinct, and goes back to when they were infants and our baby cried and we gave them milk. We changed their diaper, we picked them up, we gave them a nap, and the crying, it stopped. But as they get older, emotions become more complex. And sometimes it's not as simple as that, right? It's not as simple as, patting their back and, picking them up or giving them a snack. The emotions kind of tend to linger sometimes, or they're just so on the surface that they're triggered over and over and over again, and because they just really need to vent and express those emotions. And I know that this keeps us stuck as parents a lot of the times because seeing our child having these big feelings is overwhelming, right? It's hard, and we're again so used to being able to kind of have a quick fix and get our baby to stop crying, and they get older and it's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And so what happens is, if we come from that approach of I need to get you to stop crying, then we are going to be more likely to be impatient, start yelling, threatening them, if you don't stop crying, no iPad for you, no dessert. We just get so overwhelmed and at our wits' end that we're just pulling random things out of our hat to try to get them to stop, and we're kind of just scrambling. So it's just so important to remember that this is our child's process to control. Their emotions are their emotions. They're not our emotions. And so yes, we can show up and do our best to comfort them, validate their emotions, and be there for them, but it is their process to control. And I think a lot of this also stems from the way our society perceives and handles emotions. We have been taught that there is a such thing as good emotions and bad emotions, right? Good emotions being joy, happiness, calm, whatever, right? And then bad emotions is overwhelm, anxiety, sadness, anger. And we've been taught to kind of view emotions in this way, good versus bad. And that if we're having bad emotions, we need to get them to stop, right? We need to do whatever we need to do, avoid them, stuff them down, distract ourselves, talk ourselves out of how we feel, whatever we need to do to get it to go away so that we can come back to being happy and calm and joyful. And what happens is we become so conditioned to do this that we stuff our feelings outside of awareness. And when that happens, we don't deal with what's actually happening in our lives. And it becomes more likely that those emotions are just going to manifest themselves in other areas of our life. And that's what happens to your child, right? The more we're like, just stop crying. You're okay. You're fine. Knock it off. You're fine. Wasn't that serious? Or we just try to talk them out of it, right? And we try to use rationalization. Well, it's because of this and because of that. And what we're basically teaching them is don't deal with your emotions. It's not safe to feel anything. You need to go back to being calm and being quiet because that's what I want you to do. It's unhealthy. And I think, more as parents, we just need those reminders that it's okay if your child's losing it. It doesn't mean we're bad. We're failing them as parents. It's okay to have big feelings. Yeah, sure. It's a little overwhelming for us, but we can remind our brains that feelings are safe as long as they're not getting aggressive or doing something unsafe. I'm not talking about behavior. I'm just talking about the act of feeling. And that the more that we allow our child a safe space to feel whatever it is that's coming up for them, the healthier they are, right? The more emotionally intelligent they become. And the more we allow our child just space to feel whatever it is that's coming up for them, the quicker, quote unquote, it often is that they kind of just feel better because they've been allowed to vent and just lay it out on the table. So I hope that reminder was helpful. It's not our job to control our child's feelings. And I feel like we need that reminder every day, even for me. So often what I'll say to my little ones is like, let it out. I'm so glad you're not keeping this in. Like, I'm here. I'm listening. Girl, let it out. So truth number 5 is that it's not our responsibility as parents to keep our child entertained all of the time. And along those same lines as truth number 4 about like taking the load off and not feeling responsible for our child's feelings, we are not 100% responsible for keeping them entertained. And I think that when we constantly are wrapped up in trying to fill the space with screens and conversation and activities, it sends this subtle message that to be alone, to be quiet, to be in solitude is to be avoided, right? Like we need to avoid those things. That's not what we want to do. We want to be constantly on go mode. And I talked about this in a recent episode on the bedtime mistakes and, what happens when children are, uncomfortable being in their room by themselves. But the important thing to keep in mind is that children who do not know how to be alone with themselves, they will struggle more with bedtime. And so it's important that around the preschool age, especially, that we start to transition them into being alone more by themselves. And of course, this takes time. Like I said in the truth before, a couple ones before this, we don't want to force our child to be independent before they are ready. So it's so important that this is gradual, that we work on this throughout the years so that over time, our child learns, oh, it's fun to be by myself. Oh, I like this. I get time to work on my projects and think by myself and just, have this moment to myself. And bedtime can be a wonderful moment for our kids to wind down and read and do all the things that bring them joy that they wouldn't otherwise else be able to do when they're constantly busy and in the company of others. So this is just your gentle reminder that it's okay if your child is bored. It's okay if life is slow right now. It's okay if you don't have a lot scheduled this summer or just day to day. It's okay. It's okay to teach your child to learn how to entertain themselves too. It's not our job 100% of the times to keep our child busy all the time, and I think it can work against us in a lot of ways if that's our primary focus. So that is it for this episode. If you need more support and community and coaching when it comes to parenting, check out my private membership where I provide group coaching. There's a private community of like-minded parents as well as monthly classes and so much more to help support you along your parenting journey. And that is it for this episode. Let me know down in the comments what truth stood out to you, whether you agree or disagree, and if you have any other questions. And yeah, that's it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.